I hope you're having a good day, whatever you're doing out there. I know I'm having an awesome day so far. So thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it. Just for reference, this show is on Monday, September 26th, 2012. And this is episode number 13. So you could find that at extremehealthradio.com/13. And just so you know, all of our shows are transcribed, which means that anything a guest says or I say during a show is searchable on our website. So if you're ever looking to do research on something like rheumatoid arthritis or Parkinson's disease, or maybe just a product or anything like that, any condition, you can search for it on our website. So take advantage of that, please. You can find out what all our guests are saying about certain subjects. And there's show notes, too, for this episode. So if Sean mentions a book or a website or anything like that, and you're driving along and can't write it down, don't worry about it. Just visit extremehealthradio.com/13. And if you have any questions, please just email them to Justin at extremehealthradio.com, or you could call our voicemail line and we will play your question on the air to our guest, which is 949-391-7363. And I want to let you know this episode is brought to you by the Vitamix blender, which is my favorite blender. That and the Blendtec are my two favorite blenders. So if you're looking to buy a Vitamix, please buy it through us and we'll get a little commission. You can check that out at extremehealthradio.com/Vitamix, and we would appreciate that. And before I introduce Sean Croxton today, I would like to just talk a little bit about our show schedule this coming week. We're booked all the way up to the end of the year, and we've got some great guests coming up. We typically do shows on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And this Saturday, we have Dr. Bruce Shelton, who is a homeopathic physician and doctor out of Arizona, who has a clinic healing people from incurable diseases and working with things like ozone and oxygen therapy and all kinds of amazing things. So check out that show. And we've also got Barry Carter coming up next week, who is a researcher on the subject of Ormus, which I have to learn a little bit more about that. And we've got the herbalist, I think she's a doctor, Wendy Wilson. So she's going to be talking about herbs and how to incorporate herbs into your diet. Excuse me. And we've got Dr. Gerald Smith, who is a holistic dentist out of New York, who's been talking a lot about the connection between root canals and cancer. So if you have never heard about that, you might want to listen to that show, because I know we've all had root canals. I've got one. So listen to that show and learn a little bit about that. So with that said, I want to introduce our guest, Sean Croxton. I'll just read a short little bio and then we'll just start chatting. After graduating from San Diego State University in 2001 with a bachelor's in kinesiology with an emphasis in fitness, nutrition, and health, he began his journey as a certified personal trainer. After years of study and a litany of classes and courses, Sean works with clients to uncover the root cause of their health challenges. He works with individuals from all over the world by phone and Skype from his home office in San Diego. But he takes a holistic, functional approach to rebuilding health from the ground up. As a functional diagnostic nutritionist and certified metabolic typing advisor, and currently enrolled in the Functional Medicine University program, Sean does not focus on symptoms. Rather, his focus is on uncovering the root cause of health challenges. He's a video blogger with over 42,000 YouTube subscribers. That's crazy. And a radio show host. He's got the Underground Wellness radio show program. He's an educator and author. He's the author of a book called The Dark Side of Fat Loss. He's also the creator of the Underground Workout Manual and the Real Food Summit, as well as the Paleo Summit, all of which you can find links on this page. And if you purchase from any of those links, we'll get a little commission too. But thank you so much for joining us today. I really appreciate it, Sean.
Thanks for having me, Justin. I appreciate you having me here.
No problem. So you're calling in today from San Diego, California, right?
Yes, sir. SD.
Nice. So I know you've told your story 1,000 times, but just for our listeners who may be new to you, can you just tell us a little bit about your story of how you got involved in health and nutrition?
Well, it's a story of failure, really. I went to a California State University and I studied kinesiology with an emphasis in fitness, nutrition, and health, and did really well in all of my classes. I always say I was that guy who, on test day, I'd be done in like 5 minutes and everybody would look up and be like, where are you going? Are you leaving? Like, yeah, thought I knew everything there was to know about fitness, nutrition, health. Graduated, was ready to become a personal trainer, thought I was going to save the world from, obesity and whatnot. And then I went ahead and became a personal trainer and applied what I had learned in my classes, especially from a nutrition angle, to my clients, and failed miserably. Mm-hmm. And those things that I applied to them were food guide pyramid, eating all these servings of bread, rice, and pasta, grains, and all that stuff, starches, low-fat diets, eat lots of soy, foods that are low in cholesterol, on and on and on and on. And obviously it didn't work. It wasn't working with my clients. It wasn't even working with myself because I had problems of my own as well. I was never really overweight per se, but I did have just, depression, anxiety issues. Things just weren't working properly. So I went on this journey, and this journey was all about reading books and learning from people who are getting real results with real people. And so I stumbled upon people like David Getoff and Paul Chek and Weston A. Price, whose book Nutrition and Physical Degeneration completely changed the way I thought about food. The Paleo Diet by Lauren Cordain, the Metabolic Typing Diet by William Walcott really helped me understand that there are different diets for different people, that were not all the same. And so I started taking that information, and this is when YouTube was fairly new. I just started making YouTube videos from home, and it just kind of grew and grew and grew. And I remember YouTube was relatively new again, and I had like 600 subscribers, like really fast in like a week, and it was a big deal. So I was like, there's something to this. So I kept on going, and a year later, I said, hey, I'm this guy in his room with his Yankees hat on backwards talking about all this really important health stuff. I may not be the most credible source in the world. So I started interviewing the authors whose books I had been reading and the practitioners whose work I had been studying on Underground Wellness Radio through Blog Talk Radio. So I've been doing that for about 3 or 4 years as well, just to add that third-party validation for the things I was saying on YouTube. And from there, started working with clients, doing one-on-one coaching over the phone to great success. And then eventually wrote my own ebook, The Dark Side of Fat Loss, and done a couple summits, and now we're here.
Wow, that's amazing. So it's just amazing how you could find that kind of nutritional lack of information from, coming from conventional schoolings. I mean, it's crazy. They were teaching you to have people eat soy and low cholesterol and all of these common things. They're just complete myths, aren't they?
Yes, they're absolute myths that are really based on zero scientific evidence at all. I recall reading Gary Taubes' book, Good Calories, Bad Calories, which definitely isn't an easy read. I have to go through it several times to fully get it, but you learn that there is no scientific backing for any of this stuff. And, in hindsight, graduating from that program, and I feel bad, I sound like a bitter person about my college education. I don't like that I sound that way. And there was stuff that I learned that gave me a good foundation for the things that I teach these days, but I feel like I was more of a representative for the food industry, the processed food industry, more than anything else when I graduated from that program. And there's a lot of people out there who feel the same way. There's a lot of registered dietitians out there who don't believe in what they're teaching their clients, but they're just kind of trapped. You know what I mean? To say things that are counter to what we've been taught, especially from a professional level, can be frowned upon at times. It's not cool for a registered dietitian to say, hey, you know what? Saturated fat really isn't that bad for you. And maybe you should drop the soy milk and drink some real raw milk with all the fat in it. The fat is in there for a reason. God didn't put the fat in the milk to kill us. God didn't put the egg in the yolk, or the yolk in the egg, to kill us. You know what I'm saying? And so, I kind of just took it back to common sense in the way that our ancestors of not so long ago ate. Mm-hmm. And I don't think it's any different for us now. And the question that I pose to a lot of people is, how does an old school food cause a brand new disease? Cancer was if you read the works of these missionary doctors, these missionary doctors who actually live with these indigenous populations who had never been exposed to processed food, you'll find that there was no cancer there. And the people lived to be 70, 80, 90 years old, and they died of something called old age. That the term turn of the 20th century, the early 1900s, heart disease wasn't even taught in medical school because people just didn't die of it. You know what I mean? And so we've completely flipped things upside down. And of course, there's a lot of money and there's a lot of politics behind it. And unfortunately, it's hurting a lot of people.
Yeah, that's for sure. In this show, I want to focus on some of the subjects that I know that you're really well versed in, like digestion, detoxification, hormones, and the immune system. But before we get into that, I want to ask you a little bit about what are your thoughts about the whole, I know we touched on it just briefly, but the cholesterol myth. And people think, oh, I got to bring my cholesterol down to 110 or 120 or some crazy low number that these doctors are telling them. What do you tell people who ask you about that, or who ask for your advice about what you think they should do?
Cholesterol is a very interesting topic because it's so driven by fear. If your cholesterol is over 200, then you need to be on a statin drug. It's a great way to sell drugs, man. And soon, give it a couple of years and that number is going to be 180. And give it a couple more years and that number is going to be 160. And they're just looking for a bigger population. Cholesterol is, partly what your cells are made out of. It's really important. It's also a repair substance. And so when you encounter some type of oxidative stress, we'll say nicks and scrapes within your arterial lining there, cholesterol comes there to repair the damage. It's kind of analogous to saying, hey, whenever I see a fire, like a house on fire, I see fire trucks outside. So I must assume that the fire trucks caused the fire. No, that's not the case. Something else caused the fire, and the fire trucks and the firemen are there to repair and put the fire out, and that's what cholesterol does. A really interesting fact about cholesterol is that 50% of people out there who have heart attacks have quote-unquote normal cholesterol levels. You know what I mean? Wow. That are below 200. And so we have to stop, really vilifying cholesterol. It's a very important substance for the body. It's key. It always befuddles me how, cholesterol, yes, is found in the plaque and the arteries. And again, it's a repair substance. But, also there's a lot of calcium in there as well. Mm-hmm. So why don't we vilify calcium at the same time? You know what I'm saying?
Right,
it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. And so we should start to question our doctors. And another fact that is kind of mind-blowing is that for women, I believe it's over the age of either 50 or 60, I can't recall, the higher your cholesterol, the longer the lifespan. And so we've got all these women out there, these older women who are on their statin drugs trying to drive their cholesterol down. It's actually shortening their lifespan. And so, that was something, these things that I'm talking about right now is something that really threw me for a loop at first. And I really had to dig deep and read a few books like The Great Cholesterol Myth or Great Cholesterol Con, I believe it was, by Anthony Colpo. Good Calories, Bad Calories by Gary Taubes, to actually find out like, hey, this stuff is really backwards and it doesn't make sense, and cholesterol is very, very important. Now, and I can't give you all of the details behind this because I haven't studied it. I don't want to say that cholesterol is no problem for anybody, because when cholesterol is really, really high, if you got familial hypocholesteremia, your cholesterol is 300 and way up there, and that's a problem. So we do have a lot of people saying don't worry about cholesterol at all, and I don't agree with that. There's a happy medium there where it should be. It shouldn't be too low, and it shouldn't be super sky high. So we have to take that into consideration. And one more thing that I got from Chris Kresser, who was a participant in the Real Food Summit, and he did this is the Paleo Summit. His presentation was on cholesterol, is that when you have your cholesterol taken, because your doctor will just take one cholesterol measurement and be like, oh, it's 201. Maybe we should consider getting you on a cholesterol lowering drug. Or if it's higher than that, they'll scare you into getting you on a cholesterol lowering drug, because if you don't take that drug, you're going to die of heart disease. Well, the thing is that I think the standard deviation for that cholesterol score is like 35 points. And so it can swing 35 points either way at any time of the day. So there's a 70-point, swing there on both sides together. And so we have to keep that in mind. So I highly recommend that, people go and have their cholesterol rechecked, get it done at a different time of day, go in 3 or 4 times and see where it is. Don't just depend on one number to get you on a cholesterol lowering drug.
Wow, that's interesting. I didn't know that. So I've heard recently that cholesterol is a result of sugar and insulin causing inflammation inside the arteries. Is that what you've been able to determine as well, or what's the connection between sugar and cholesterol? Because a lot of people think that it's the cholesterol foods like the egg yolks and things like that, but I've heard that it has more to do with insulin and sugar. Is that kind of what you've heard?
There is some truth to that. To be honest, it's not really, this is something I know a little bit about. Mm-hmm. I would recommend that you talk to just get better answers. I would recommend you talk to Kresser or to Chris Masterjohn. Talk to one of those guys and they'll give you the full detailed analysis on that. I haven't truly studied cholesterol for about 2 years. Mm-hmm. It was something that I was really deep into for a while, but since then I've kind of simplified my approach and have just gone toward a just more eat real food type of approach. And so I can't fully answer that question for you, but I do recommend Kresser or Masterjohn. They'll be all over that.
Yeah, that's cool. I have emails into both those guys to be on our show, so that'll be good.
Yeah, they will light you up for a good hour and a half about this cholesterol stuff, and so hey, I think they'll do it better justice than I can ever do.
Nice. Yeah, I've also heard too, or read somewhere, I can't remember where I get all this information, but I've heard that it was, I think in order to make hormones, your cholesterol needs to be at least 150 or something. So
yeah, and that's one thing that people forget about. Kim Schutte, who's a practitioner out here and health coach out here in San Diego area, she had a presentation with the Real Food Summit where she talked about erectile dysfunction and how she's been able to correct erectile dysfunction with her clients with adding traditional fats to their diet. So eating the skin on the chicken, eating the beef or the fat on the beef, consuming more butter and coconut oil, because at the roots of your hormones is fat and cholesterol. Mm-hmm. So if you do have a diet that's low in fat and cholesterol, well, if you're not making the precursors to your hormones, you will find that your hormones will go askew. Mm-hmm. And it's certainly something that you don't want to have. I did hormone testing with my clients for a good 2 years. I really don't do much one-on-one coaching anymore, but looking at people's hormones, looking at their cortisol curves, looking at their estrogen levels, their DHEA, their testosterone, their progesterone, I never saw a normal test. Ever. Wow. Everybody was way off. And, of course, there's going to be some stuff going on with people, but the huge imbalances that I saw, they can be attributed to many things, but one thing certainly is this low fat, low cholesterol mantra that's been kind of handed down from our, these dietary associations as well as our government. It's absolutely backwards. And really, it's just a great way to sell Viagra. It's a great way to sell statins. It's a great way to sell drugs for diabetes, because people are replacing the fat with sugar. And it's not really working too well. People's insulin is out of control. Their blood sugar is out of control. And, I think the stat is that, 1 in 2 non-African American babies born in the year 2000 are going to get diabetes at some point in their lives. 2 out of 3 African American babies born in 2000 at some point are going to get diabetes in their lives. And it doesn't really have to be that way. Mm-hmm. We've just totally just vilified fats. And actually, while we vilify the saturated fats, we've promoted these polyunsaturated fats, which are the rancid, oxidized, dangerous fats, these vegetable oils that are the cause, or one of the many causes of a lot of the issues that we have right now, including cancer and heart disease. And so it's totally backwards, and we need to kind of flip it around and get with it and educate people. Yeah,
I hear you. I've heard from Dr. Hal Huggins that the optimal, according to him at least, that the optimal cholesterol levels are, what he says is somewhere around 220. But each doctor has their own opinion. But whatever the case, that's way higher than the 140s and 150s they're trying to get people to. But I want to take a quick break here. But when I come back, as you know, it all comes down to digestion. Almost the whole thing comes down to digestion, and that's one of the first things I want to talk to you about when we come back from this break. How to improve people's digestions and how digestion causes breakdown and all over the body. So we'll get to that with Sean Croxton right after this break. Hey, what's up, everybody? I just wanted to talk to you a little bit about the Paleo Summit that's put together by our man, Sean Croxton. And this is a summit that took place live over 8 days, and I believe there's 23 video presentations, 23 audio files, 18 hours of cutting-edge information, and 300 pages of transcripts. Now, this program is really an amazing program if you're looking to make some permanent changes in your diet, and if you're tired of struggling with fat loss or weight loss, and you're struggling with food addictions, and you're just looking for a permanent solution, this is definitely something you want to check out. You can find it at extremehealthradio.com/Paleo Summit, and they talk about things like gluten sensitivities, how to curb food addictions and cut back on food cravings, how animal foods and things like cholesterol do not cause heart disease or degenerative diseases, and how to deal with things like bone loss and cancer and muscle pain, autoimmune diseases, and how to burn fat and all that kind of stuff. So if you're looking to change your diet once and for all, definitely check that out. It's extremehealthradio.com/Paleo Summit. All right, let's get back to this interview. Okay, we are here with Sean Croxton, the creator of undergroundwellness.com. And on this show page, which is extremehealthradio.com/13, you'll find a link to his YouTube channel, his Twitter feed, and his Facebook account. So please follow him if you can on any one of those three outlets there for him, and visit his website, undergroundwellness.com. And I wanted to talk with you, Sean, about the number one problem I think that just about everyone on earth is having, whether they know it or not, is the inability to digest the food they're eating.
Huge topic, and it's one that people don't address enough because they don't like to talk about it. You know, people just simply don't like to talk about their poop. I've had so many clients, who during our consultations, I'm the first person ever to ask them, how much are you pooping? How often are you pooping? What does it look like? What's going on? They're kind of, thrown off by the question. I'm like, yo, this is extremely important. You can have the greatest diet in the history of the world, I always say, but if your digestion isn't working properly, then, what good is that diet doing for you? And so there are many things that can go wrong with digestion. I think the quote from Liz Lipsky's book called Digestive Wellness is that 60% of the American population has some type of digestive dysfunction, whether it be bloating, gas, belching, constipation, diarrhea, fluctuating back and forth as well, bacterial overgrowth, yeast overgrowth, food sensitivities, leaky gut syndrome, on and on and on. Mm-hmm. And in my practice, when working with clients, I would do a particular test called the mucosal barrier screen to kind of see what's going on in that gut, see what's going on with the levels of good to bad bacteria, see if the body's making antibodies to particular foods, see if that lining that, as I like to call it, that window screen in the gut that's supposed to allow the good nutrients through and to get into the bloodstream, into the circulation, and keep all the bad guys out, all the bugs out, and keep them in the gut so you can poop them out, to see if that's working well enough. Because most people out there, when I tested, had leaky guts, and that's not good, because you know what happens when you have leaky gut? You've got poop in your bloodstream. You've got food particles, undigested food particles getting into your bloodstream directly, and your immune system goes, what is this? What is this piece of apple? What is this undigested piece of bacon doing in this bloodstream? We need to fight this off. And so what you end up getting is food sensitivities, which isn't good. And then, down the line, your body says, hey, I've been fighting off this piece of bacon for the last few years. You know what? Such and such's thyroid or their cartilage or their brain tissue or their muscle tissue really looks like the proteins that make up the protein strand that makes up that bacon we've been fighting off. So now you've got autoimmune issues where your body's starting to fight itself. And so it turns into this nasty domino effect that, can be a really big problem for a lot of people, and actually is a really big problem for a lot of people, but they're just not addressing it because they don't know what's going on. Mm-hmm. Just real quick, again, working with clients, I would say 70 to 80% of them, when we ran a stool test, had some type of parasite or H. pylori infection, some type of pathogen going on in their gut that was causing their symptoms. And again, domino effect. It's a stressor. It's breaking down the immune system. It's causing stress to the body, which has an impact on the hormones. And I will tell you this, my book is called The Dark Side of Fat Loss. And, it mostly emphasizes getting healthy as the way to losing fat. But I'll tell you guys, if you want to lose fat, you want to have healthy testosterone levels. If you don't have healthy testosterone levels and you're trying to burn fat, I'm not sure if it's going to happen for you. And so when I would test my clients' hormones, the ones who had the long-term digestive issues, the ones who said, yeah, I've been dealing with this for 5, 10, 15, 20 years, since that trip to Thailand back in the day, those were the ones who always, except for one guy, this one guy, he was a young guy, except for one guy, they always had low testosterone levels. So you want to see how all of these things connect. It's not just about your diet and your exercise program. There's also some hidden stuff that can be going on with you that's causing you to gain weight and causing you to be unhealthy.
Yeah, no. So now, what would you suggest for people to do? Like if I'm sitting here listening to this, or someone out there is driving around their car, they're listening to this and they're saying, you know what, I've got IBS. I was diagnosed, 3 months ago, or I've got gas and bloating, and they know they've got digestive problems. What do you suggest the first thing they do? Well, what books should they read, or where should they go get their blood tested, or...
Well, first of all, of course, I'm going to say read my book. I think the longest chapter, I think it's like a 30-page chapter on digestion and the dark side of fat loss. Of course, they can get that on my website. Another book would be Digestive Wellness by Liz Lipsky. And if you really got some issues, I would certainly recommend contacting a holistic practitioner, a functional diagnostic nutritionist, functionaldiagnosticnutrition.com, a Czech practitioner, ChekInstitute.com, CHEK Institute.com, a naturopathic doctor, a functional medicine practitioner in your area, or even somebody who, you can talk to over the phone to help you to kind of investigate and kind of lift up the hood and see what's going on in there so you can really get to the root cause of the issue. I mean, there's a lot of people out there who just may go to the supermarket and just grab some probiotics, which is great. I have no problem with that. I think most people should do a round of probiotics, and this is good bacteria for your gut, for a good 2 months. I think that's really important because there's so many things that throw off our ratio of good to bad bacteria. Somebody else may go out and get some digestive enzymes from, the store, and that's great as well. But if you do have some type of parasitic infection, if you do have like an H. pylori infection, which I believe 30 to 40% of the population has, these Band-Aid approaches aren't going to work in the long term. We want to make sure that we get to the root cause. I think, due to the fact that our medical system is the way that it is, with a Band-Aid approach, kind of focusing on the symptoms and, making them go away so the person can kind of move on. But at the same time, now you're just stuck on this medication forever. I think we've gotten out of the mentality to actually finding out what is the cause. And so find a practitioner to help you find what that cause is. It may cost you a few bucks, but it's actually going to save you money over time, because if you nip this thing in the bud, do your protocol, you can be done in 3, 6, 9 months and not have to buy all these freaking Band-Aid approaches and supplements that you've been buying, because you're going to end up buying those supplements for the rest of your life if you're doing it that way. And then at the same time, you can fix it and move on with the rest of your life. And I think that's what a lot of people out there who have health challenges, they just wish like, yo, I want to fix this and I want it to go away so I can just move on and live happy and not have to deal with it anymore. But you can't do that with a Band-Aid approach. You have to work with somebody and get down to that root cause. Yeah, no, I hear you. Yeah, because a lot of people they're not interested like we are in this kind of stuff. They just want to be able to live their life. What do you think about, as far as Band-Aid approaches? I've heard of things like Matula tea, mastic gum, L-glutamine, things like that. Are those good things that can help people's digestion? Yeah, they can. Matula tea is great. If you got an H. pylori infection, Matula tea will knock that baby out every time. I've got a 100% success rate using Matula tea in combination with mastic gum to knock out an H. pylori infection. Now, let's say that person doesn't have H. pylori. They're just guessing. You know, I'm not sure if Matula tea is really going to help them very much. L-glutamine is critical. I mean, when I'm repairing guts with my clients, we use L-glutamine all the time. Now, some people, there is a population out there who shouldn't be on glutamine, but you know, most of my clients will be on glutamine, and they'll stay on that for 6, 9, 12 months, maybe even 2 years, depending on the damage to their guts. And so, you know, that's where it's really key for the testing to occur. There's a lot of practitioners who say, oh, you don't need the testing, but I love the testing myself because I can run an intestinal barrier screen and see what the environment in the gut is, to see what that secretory IgA, basically another way of saying the gut lining, I can see what it looks like. I can see what that score is. Wow. And then 9 or 6 months later, as the client's been doing that protocol, which includes the L-glutamine, I can test it again and see where it's at. And if it's where it's supposed to be, I can say, okay, we're done. Protocol over. Let's move on. Wow. But if somebody isn't really getting better, or they're not to where they should be, then we can say, okay, let's do another 6 months of this and keep going. You know, that's as opposed to doing it blindfolded and saying, okay, I've been on this protocol for 90 days or 6 months. I figure I'm done. I like to see a number, and the client likes to see a number as well, to make sure things are going in the right direction and knowing when the job is done.
Yeah, I hear you. You know, for those of you that are listening and just thinking, you know, how do I find a person in my area? Sean mentioned a few websites that we'll have on our show page, extremehealthradio.com/13, if you're interested in finding a person in your area. And I think that there's a website called acam.org, acam.org, where you could find practitioners in your area. And one last thing on digestion. It's interesting that people think that, you know, when we eat food, it actually, you know, we actually absorb the food, but it's really not. It doesn't work that way. Doesn't the food gets broken down by the beneficial bacteria, and then what they excrete goes into the villi? Is that right? And then through the villi, it goes through into your bloodstream. Is that kind of how digestion works?
Yes, and no. Of course, you consume the food. I think a lot of people need to realize that your teeth are part of your digestive system. You know, they help to break down the food, and a lot of people aren't chewing their food enough. So make sure you chew the food so it's liquid, then swallow. It just makes it so much easier for your body to break down. The hydrochloric acid that's produced in your stomach via the parietal cells, they're going to break down the protein, and then it's going to go into the small intestine. If that chyme, basically that's just the juicy friggin' food that comes out of the stomach. If that chyme is acidic enough, and this takes us to low stomach acid issues, but we'll skip over that for now. If it's acidic enough, then what happens is your pancreas, you know, squirts juices at it. Your gallbladder does a little squeeze, and that the bile that comes out helps to break down the fats. Of course, the bacteria. So you don't have a whole lot of bacteria in small intestine. It's mostly in your large intestine, but that's going to break down some food as well. But the thing is that you have your villi in your gut, the cells that line your gut, I shouldn't say the cells that line your gut, but the digestive structures that are in your gut, they look like the fingers on your hand. And the fingers would be the villi. And if you imagine your fingers having hair all over them, those would be microvilli. And the microvilli, those hairs, they make additional enzymes in order to break down the food further, such as lactase breaks down lactose. That's produced by the microvilli. Or sucrase, which is sugar. The microvilli make that as well. And so that helps to further break down your food. And the food is absorbed, the proteins and, or say, amino acids and the carbohydrates are absorbed through those villi. And within those fingers are something called lacteals. And so, like, if you put a flashlight up to your fingers, like in a dark room, and you can kind of see the bone in there, just consider that to be your lacteal. And that absorbs the fats. Now, the fats go into the lymph. Oh man, I'm so rusty on this. It's been a while. The lymphatic system, I believe. Gosh, skip that. The proteins and the fats, they actually don't go directly into your circulation. They actually go into something called the hepatic portal system.
Okay.
And that takes it to the liver to be further processed and filtered, get the toxins out, and then it goes to the circulation. And so food and the foods that we digest doesn't go right into the bloodstream. It's not like, hey, pow, right into the bloodstream. It doesn't work that way. It has to be filtered out through the liver, then it goes in there.
Right. Wow. So for all of you that are listening that have gotten your nutritional advice from, the commercials or, the food pyramid from school, just know that it's probably not what it seems. There's a lot more going on, and it's not just about calories in, calories out. There's a lot going on in your body, and as you can tell, Sean knows so much. I think I remember watching a video with you, Sean, a few years ago, or I don't know how long ago it was now, where you were talking about the gut and psychology syndrome, and that whole book about digestion, and it's just amazing. But I wanted to ask you too. I wanted to move on a little bit to detoxification and some things that you can talk about in terms of how people can detoxify some of these chemicals, man, that we're getting exposed to just breathing the air inside of our house.
Oh, real quickly, I was right about that lymphatic system. I'm a little rusty. This is what happens when you spend a year putting together products and stuff like that. Fats are transported by way of the lacteal to the lymphatic system, as opposed to the amino acids and sugar going to the hepatic portal system to be filtered by the liver. When it comes to detoxification, I very seldom put my clients on actual overt detox programs. What I really like to focus on first is removing a lot of the toxins in their environment, getting them to buy different personal care products, getting them to buy different household cleaning products, getting them to filter their water, getting them to buy foods that are organic and haven't been sprayed with toxic chemicals and pesticides. And I think the best detox ever is just eating real food. People, when they start eating real food, they do start to detoxify, and the body does start to let go of a lot of crap. We're exposed to far too many chemicals. And I always say, hey, if you're taking I have a Jeep Wrangler. If I'm taking my Jeep Wrangler out four-wheeling, every day, there's no point in me washing it all the time. You know what I'm saying? It seems like that's what a lot of us do. We do these detoxification programs while at the same time living in this nasty, toxic environment where our air quality sucks. And so if I can get somebody to go to cosmeticsdatabase.com and take all of their personal care products and putting them on their desk and punching them in to cosmeticsdatabase.com to see how toxic they are. This database is actually run by the Environmental Working Group, which is like a watchdog for the environment, and they have a ranking system of 1 to 10. And you will be surprised by how many of your personal care products come out as a 9 or a 10 being highly toxic. So I really focus on getting myself as well as my clients to go ahead and purchase personal care products that are 4 and below or 5 and below. If I can get to do that, I feel like I'm winning because I'm reducing their toxic load. Household cleaning products. If you're cleaning your products, here's what we do. We spray toxic chemicals all over our furniture and our counters in order to clean things. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense. And at the same time, we are rubbing it in to our skin while we're applying it. We're inhaling it while we're applying it. The smells and all that stuff, they linger in the room. These plugins, these air fresheners, these are all toxic. And I think another thing that we need to recognize is, hey, if your testosterone is low, your doctor may give you, if they're not looking for the root cause, your doctor will give you a cream to rub it in, and that will raise your testosterone. If you're trying to stop smoking, what do you use? You use a patch. It's a transdermal patch that absorbs the nicotine through your skin. So we forget all of these things that we're putting on our skin. All of these things, these soaps, these creams, these shampoos, these deodorants that we rub all over ourselves, those chemicals can be detected in your bloodstream within about 5 minutes. And we do this every single day to ourselves. And we got to stop because the liver, your poor liver is taking a beating. It was never designed to deal with the environment that we live in right now. And if fat loss is one of your goals, we have to recognize that 60% of your thyroid hormone conversion from the inactive T4 to the active metabolic driving T3, that happens in your liver. So if your liver isn't functioning well, hey, we've got a problem here with your thyroid hormone. Your gut, let's get back to the gut for a second. You know, the bacteria in your gut, they're going to convert about 20% of that thyroid hormone into its active form. And so if you've got bad gut bacteria, you've got a thyroid hormone and a metabolism issue there as well. So, you know, why I'm saying this is because I want the audience to kind of connect these dots and go, again, as I said before, it's not just about diet and exercise. There's these other hidden things going on. The toxins that you spray around your home and what you rub into your skin every day, those can be contributing to weight gain or the inability to lose fat. Your digestive issues could be contributing as well. The water that you drink, the water that you bathe in, you know, those are things that need to be filtered out and purified in order for you just to be a healthy individual. Because as I always say, you know, we don't lose fat to get healthy. Instead, we have to get healthy in order to lose fat. And I think a lot of us have it backwards.
Yeah, no, I hear you. And when we come back, I want to ask you, gosh, we got so much to get to. I want to ask you about testosterone, how to increase your testosterone. I want to talk to you about adrenal health, maybe the immune system and hormones. If we can get to all that, we only got about 20 minutes left, but I know those are huge issues we could spend hours on just alone, but we'll maybe cover a little bit about that when we come back. We are with Sean Croxton from undergroundwellness.com. As you can tell, he's a wealth of knowledge in this area. So visit his website, undergroundwellness.com. We'll be right back with Sean Croxton. I hope you're enjoying the interview so far and getting a lot out of it. I just wanted to tell you really quickly about a program by Chris Kresser called The Healthy Baby Code. And if you haven't heard of Chris Kresser, he's got a blog called chriskresser.com, and he's put together an amazing course on how to have a healthy baby and how to avoid things like autism and childhood diseases. And, you know, a lot of kids get leukemia these days, and it's just, you know, childhood diseases is rampant. And if you're looking to avoid all that and to have the healthiest baby possible, definitely check out the Healthy Baby Code. You can find it at extremehealthradio.com/babycode. And it comes with about 5.5 hours of video presentations. It comes with audio presentations, so you can download them to your iPod. It's got hundreds of pages of resources materials, an ebook, and bonus files. You get all kinds of things like cheat sheets, meal plans, how to breastfeed, how long to breastfeed, natural birthing. He's got the whole thing just covered from A to Z in this course. So I highly recommend, if you're looking to get pregnant or if you already are pregnant, you got to check this out. It's the Healthy Baby Code by Chris Kresser. And again, you can find it at extremehealthradio.com/babycode. Okay, we are with Sean Croxton from undergroundwellness.com. We've got about 20 minutes left, and I just wanted to ask him a couple more questions about, let's start with hormones and how we can somehow get on top of this hormone issue that we've got today.
That's a big question. I can go on for an hour on that one. I'll try to keep it short. I know I give these big, long tangent answers. Well, hormones, as I said earlier, when I was testing hormones, running saliva panels, gosh, everybody's hormones were absolutely askew, to say the least. I think with hormones, really, it's about finding why your hormones are out of whack in the first place. You know, is it just due to the fact, as we talked about earlier, that your diet isn't where it should be? Are you not giving your body the ingredients that it needs in order to make those hormones? Because, like, again, you know, a lot of the people whom I've worked with have been on low-fat diets for the majority of their lives out of fear that eating fat was going to give them heart disease. And so that's critical. These things that we talked about as well, digestive stuff. As I said, everybody who I've known, except for one person who's had long-term digestive issues, has had low testosterone. Why is that? It's because of the stress. You know, the stress is going to cause the hormones to go askew. You've got couple hormones that your body makes. Cortisol is the primary stress hormone. There's another one called DHEA as well. And one thing about this is that cortisol and DHEA come from the same place. They come from another hormone called pregnenolone. And so if you think about pregnenolone kind of being on the top of a triangle, and on the left-hand quarter down is your DHEA, just think that side of your triangle there is the sex side of the triangle, or the pyramid, we'll say. So it makes the DHEA, and that DHEA makes your testosterone. Okay. Now go back up to the top of that pyramid where you've got the pregnenolone, and go down to the other bottom side of the bottom point of the pyramid, and now you've got your cortisol, your stress hormone. So you've got stress on one side, and you've also got sex on the other side, and they're being fed by the same thing, which is pregnenolone. Now, if your body is under stress, do you think it truly cares about sex and reproduction? Not so much. It cares about you fighting off that stress, you being able to handle that stress. Now we have to think of, what is stress? Stress can be mental, emotional, it can be financial, it can be relationships, but it also can be internal stress that's going on, digestive issues, toxicity, immune system problems, food sensitivity, poor diet, on and on. We also have to consider that over-exercise could be stressful for an individual. So if there's a lot of these stressors stacking on top of each other, the pregnenolone at the top of the pyramid starts to favor the stress side. So it starts to feed that cortisol and the stress side at the expense of the DHEA and the testosterone. So the cortisol comes up typically to fight off the stress. The DHEA goes down as a consequence because that side's not being fed. If your DHEA is going down, and DHEA again is the precursor to the testosterone, then your testosterone is going to come down as well. This is why when you're under a considerable amount of stress, like when I was doing the Paleo Summit and the Real Food Summit, I had no libido, period. I didn't even care about women. It didn't even cross my mind because I was just stressed beyond belief. And so we have to find, again, why you have hormonal problems in the first place. Why is that testosterone low? Instead of going to the doctor and saying, yo, I need some androgel to pump up my testosterone, that actually can end up becoming a problem. And I have a few experience with clients who have done that. So again, just find out where the root cause is. There are some supplements that you can use out there. There's one called Libido Stem that I've used with a couple of clients. I've used another one called Adrenal Response for the adrenals themselves to kind of help to prop them up a little bit, give them some support. Tribulus is another one. But the thing is that with those particular substances, with some people, and including myself, because I've tried these before, they can make some people a little bit mean. And so I would use those with caution for sure. And again, get to the root cause.
Yeah, I hear you. Because, taking those supplements, I've heard of things like deer antler, colostrum, and things like that. I mean, that's all great. But like you were talking about earlier, if you've got a fire raging, you want to get to the cause and get rid of the fire. So, I mean, ahead of taking those supplements, it would be better to do some exercises like yoga or qigong, or do some meditation or prayer, right, to slow your life down and stop that stress. That's probably the number one thing to consider. Right?
Yeah, I'm really, really glad you mentioned that. That's one of the first things that I talk with my clients about is, what are you doing to reduce your stress load? Are you in go mode? Are you giving yourself time to yourself? Are you hanging out with your friends? I mean, you'd be surprised by, when I ask somebody, when was the last time you saw your friends? They'd be like, oh, a few months ago. And it's like, yo, get out, make that part of your day. I've always said that I've kind of become this Google Calendar instructor, like teaching people how to schedule their days and how to make time for simple things like eating food. We do all these things back to back to back to back to back, and we're like, oh, I'm starving, and what? We're just not taking care of ourselves because we're going all the time, or we're trying to exercise. As Paul Chek says, exercise. If you think about exercising demons, it's taking demons out. Exercise is taking energy out of your body, and we're not spending the time putting the energy back in through things like qigong and tai chi and yoga. I know a lot of your listeners are going to be like, oh, that just sounds weird, but for some people it does sound weird at first. But once you try it and you feel it, it'll get reinforced and you'll want to do more of it. And I think that one of the keys to, and I really focus on this myself, especially this last several months, is I really focus on doing new things. I think change, variety, as they say, is the spice of life. And so in order to reduce stress, we need some novel things in our life. So I really encourage people to try new things that they'll benefit from. Go on a hike, hang out with new people, do some water sports like I've been doing lately. Just do something new to change things up a bit so your life isn't freaking Groundhog Day.
Yeah. And I've been learning about this too recently. I've just been, realizing, what kinds of people am I hanging out with? And when I talk with them, or if I'm interacting with people, maybe sometimes I'm forced to at work or things like that, I'm wondering, okay, do I feel more relaxed after hanging out with these people, or do I feel depleted? Because, some people can just deplete you. And I think to myself, okay, who's robbing and stealing energy from myself versus who's putting energy into me? And after I'm done with hanging out with the person, some people I feel really energized, but then some people I feel really depleted. So, I think that stress is, what do you think about stress in terms of, being more important than diet and exercise? Stress, I'm starting to think that maybe stress is like, if we can get all stress out of our life, maybe it wouldn't matter what we eat.
And there's some truth to that. I did a video last year called Just Eat Real Food, and I think that our mentalities that we've gotten, especially in our community, I'll speak for our community first, has kind of taught people to that we've gotten to the minutia so much, and I don't want to say overanalyze, because that overanalysis can just be regular analysis for some of the nutrition nerds out there, and that's great. But for the average person out there, diet has become kind of a stressor where they're just wondering, like, yo, what the heck should I eat? Is this right? Is this wrong? Am I doing something that's good for me or not? That's why I kind of simplify it and say, yo, just eat real food and listen to your body. And I outline all that in my ebook, Dark Side of Fat Loss. But to be honest, I think stress is a killer out there, and maybe so we can get away with eating more not so real foods if we reduced our stress levels considerably. I personally, when I got done with the Real Food Summit, I took 6 weeks off, man, and I did freaking nothing. And it was great. I feel healthier than I felt in a long time. I just feel good. I feel more relaxed. And as you said earlier, hanging out with friends, not hanging out with people who drain the heck out of you. I'm very, very cognizant of who I hang out with. I'm very picky about who I spend my time with. I remember reading The Compound Effect by Darren Hardy, who's the editor of Success Magazine. He says you've got your 3-minute friends, you've got your 3-hour friends, and you have your 3-day friends. And a lot of my 3-minute friends, I've kind of cut back on their time considerably that I would spend with them. And one thing that I've learned is that your income, which is really important when it comes down to your stress level, because most people out there are stressed about finances. This is why our days are go, 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 because we're trying to make ends meet. We're trying to stay afloat here. Your income typically is the average of the top 5 people that you're hanging out with. And so you got to kind of look at that and say, hey, are my friends supportive of the things that I do, or are their expectations of me and themselves kind of holding me back? And that's been another big thing that I've changed personally in this last maybe year and a half, is hanging out with different people who motivate me and uplift me. And it's turned into quite successful endeavor, to be honest.
Yeah, I hear you. And we only have a few more minutes left, but I want to ask you really quickly just about adrenal health. A lot of people have adrenal stress, and what's the role of leptin with adrenal health, and what are some of your thoughts about how to restore adrenal health in some people?
Oh, that kind of goes back to what we've been talking about for the last 20 minutes. Restoring adrenal health is removing stressors. Okay. Again, whether it be improving your poor diet, whether it be backing off on some of the exercise that you're doing. I'd say 50% of the people who I work with are exercising too much. They're going to spin class, 5 days a week, killing themselves. I go, yo, you're adding to your stress load there. Your adrenals can't take it. Back off. Go to spin class class once a week instead of 5 times, and the other days go to yoga, and people go, oh my God, I'm losing weight after a couple of weeks. You know, it's amazing. They feel so much better. And again, finding those root cause issues and nipping them in the bud by doing the proper protocol, that's key. In terms of leptin's going to take me about 10 minutes to cover, to be honest. Yeah. Hey, real quick though, I'm not sure if this is live, but tomorrow we have a free webinar going on all about adrenal dysfunction. If you go to fdn.tv, that's F as in Frank, D as in dog, N as in Nancy.tv, you can register for that free webinar. It's Thursday at 5 o'clock Pacific time, 8 o'clock Eastern. That's Thursday what's today's date?
I think it's the 26th.
Thursday the 27th. And if you do miss that, it's going to be posted on my blog at undergroundwellness.com. We're going to record it and put it up on the blog probably next Monday. So be looking for that. It's the latest and greatest on adrenal health. So we're really going to be getting into that.
Oh, wow. That's awesome. Okay. Well, we'll just refer people to that, to undergroundwellness.com, and check out Sean Croxton's website. And as we're kind of wrapping up here, I wanted to ask you, what kinds of things do you have in the works, in the pipeline? What kinds of things are you working on? Where do you see yourself going in, the next few years?
Not working on a whole lot right now, man. I've been really just chilling, focusing and just relaxing. I am launching a new website in the next month or so. It's done. It's at SeanCroxton.com. I just haven't fully put it out there and started putting content there. But the focus there is what I call becoming a professional human being. And there's 4 quadrants to that. It's self-mastery, wealth mastery, health mastery, and help mastery in terms of community service. I think that people got to get their minds right. I mean, that's how myself and my clients have been able to succeed in all this. It's having a mind-first approach is key, getting over some of that self-sabotage stuff that a lot of people have going on, including myself at one point. Giving back is key. Having enough money, wealth management, wealth mastery is key, because we have to have money in order to be able to afford a lot of this healthy stuff out there, That's what I'm really going to be focusing on for next year, maybe backing off a little bit from the underground wellness stuff and focusing on that. I just got a new office I leased out in downtown San Diego, so I'm going to get back to doing YouTube videos. I haven't done YouTube myself for a little over a year. I think that a lot of people miss it, so we're going to be shooting video out of there, and I'll do a couple summits next year, probably a functional medicine summit and another real food summit, and that's really it, man. Just living life and having a lot of fun.
That's awesome. Yeah, lowering that stress. That's what it's all about.
Oh, it's awesome. Time, my friend, time is the new currency. And, I have a lot of good time on my hand, and I'm using it well, giving back and also enjoying life.
Nice. Awesome. All right. Would you mind just hanging out while I close out the show?
Absolutely.
Awesome. Okay. 1 second. Okay, thank you so much, everybody, for joining us today with Sean Croxton. I really, really appreciate your time. As you can tell, Sean knows a heck of a lot about health and wealth and well-being and all that good stuff. So make sure to visit his website, undergroundwellness.com, and in the future, SeanCroxton.com. And if you found value in this show, could you do me a favor? I would really, really appreciate it if you could just hit like on this show page or follow us on Facebook and Twitter. Kind of send send this show around to your friends and kind of just help us in that way. We would really, really